Welcome, everyone. Nice to have you back. I'm Sister Jenna, and you're tuning in to our daily program sponsored by the Brahma Kumaris Meditation Museums. As you know, due to the current state of affairs, we've had to close down our branches so that our staff and our visitors would be safe. When something is unknown and yet so deadly and crucial, you don't want to take chances. Forget the economy at this time. It's about human life. And so we're happy to know that we are able to be with you at least every day. That has been our commitment so far since we've been closed, to spend some time in your living room or maybe with you in the kitchen or in your car to discuss certain topics or issues that are very prevalent and personal to our lives, to invite some wonderful speakers and friends and guests from around the world to meet with us and to talk with us and to enlighten us and elevate us. Right now, the energy of thought might be under a great amount of duress because of the quiet. There's a difference between being quiet and having inner silence. Huge difference. So quiet is more like you can close the doors and the room becomes quiet, or the electricity goes off and everything is just so quiet. But silence, that energy of silence, is when you no longer entertain or serve waste or negative thoughts. And that silence is connected to your personality of purity. And again, the whole personality of purity is that you didn't give any energy to what is wrong, what is broken, what should have been, what could have been. And all of these thoughts we've had over a long period of time, and they definitely contribute to our fear factor. So to what extent do I need to use this quiet time to build my power of inner silence by transforming the way that I think, by healing my thoughts, especially during a time where your radio is telling you stories about death and viruses and who's doing what and so on. The television news circuits are telling you about all the doom and gloom and with glimmers of hope. The social media tells you who is dying, who's not dying. Today we just heard Prime Minister Boris Johnson, has just gone into the ICU. And we want to spend a moment of silence in helping him to as well to recover. One of the interesting things about this particular, I don't want to know if I call it disease or just this particular virus, is how it doesn't matter who you are. You can be the president of a country, the prime minister of a country. You can live in a slum. You can be a mother. You can be a grandmother. You can be a baby. You can be a teenager. You can be a doctor. You can be Chinese. You can be African. You can be Indian. You can be Spanish. It runs away. It's not selective. It goes after anyone. And I've been taking some moments of quietude to really try to see the symbolic meaning of this. The fact that this is all of humanity, all of humanity. Yesterday we joined in India for their 9 minutes of meditation and silence and lighting up lights and candles. In America it was 11:30 where we are in Washington, D.C., and in India it was 9 p.m. at the time. And it was such a beautiful experience to know that my thoughts were being served, not just for me, but I was extending the vibrations of my thoughts somewhere else. This is an aspect of healing. If you can keep developing the stage of being generous and kind and maintaining your good wishes and your pure feelings for people, with people, it's a huge sign of healing. And whatever difficulties that might occur, it's as if your soul has an insurance policy which is being paid by all of the good deeds that you've done up until now. So I feel that I know that we're going through a lot of anxiety. there's a lot of questioning and doubts and concerns. I also believe that there's an opportunity for us to actually dig deeper and get higher in terms of the way we see our lives, the way we see one another. And my hope is that when we step out of this particular state of consciousness, that we'll be a better civilization. And in order for us to become a better civilization, I would have had to have done some consistent, genuine, sincere work with my transformation of the self during this particular isolation, or what I call exile. I want to play a message of hope which came from my beautiful sister Jenna, which I think is very moving and very touching. And when we get back, then we will talk more about the healing process of thought, and we will expand what is this that we need to do, and how can we maneuver this particular time that we're in.
Om Shanti. How many challenges are you facing? Have you counted them? Or have you started counting the opportunities that you're receiving? Because every cloud does have a silver lining. And the virus seems to have given us an opportunity just to slow down, just to see what is happening in terms of nature around us, to see what is the impact we are having on other people and the world around. Maybe it's also an opportunity to go on an inner journey. It's an opportunity to see what's going on in my own heart, whether the body is sick or whether it's in silence and quarantine, whether it's still active and engaged in things that I can still do. Whatever situation it is I may be in, I think the message of the particular times that we're in is, I need to care for the inner being. Am I keeping the inner being well and strong and healthy and resilient? And if I do that, then definitely that also has an impact on my physical chariot. There's no question about that. But I think the situation is one that's telling us that this is what we need to do. Go on that inner journey. And in that journey within, yes, there's a dialogue with myself, but there's also a dialogue I have with the one above. In silence, I'm able to connect and I experience God's love, God's light, God's protection, and most of all, God's power. When I need to be stable and calm in situations that I've never had to deal with before, I need an inner power that's going to give me the capacity to deal with all of those things. There's a lovely expression we use, being able to catch the message that's coming to me from the Supreme, and to have an intellect that's clean and clear enough to be able to understand that message. Do I have the capacity to listen and also catch the signals so that I know what it is I need to do for myself and for others around me? It's a time to appreciate my family, the ones who are closest to me, where I live, and I don't always give time to that. And now I can give time to that. But it's also time to connect with my bigger family, the family that's around me in the globe, in the world. Can I send out God's light to all those in need? And it might be different situations of need. It might be in terms of health resources. It might be in terms of wealth resources. It might be in terms of food and water, whatever it may be. But can I share God's light with them so that the resources that they need come to them? I can't reach everybody personally, but I can send them God's love. so that their heart is filled with that abundance and compassion and generosity, so that whatever needs to happen to carry the human family forward, be able to support each other and cooperate in that. Experience God's love with just a moment of silence. Any awareness of the inner being. And from the Supreme Light, I draw the light of love, the light of truth, of purity, of compassion. And I send out these vibrations to all.
A beautiful message. I think we now need to be very selective with the choices that we make at a particular time where the mind, the intellect, the personality needs to be purified, elevated, enhanced. So I was thinking about our topic today and to what extent have I applied certain techniques to heal my own thoughts. I think the first thing that we really need to do is to recognize that there are certain patterns of thoughts that we believe are not healthy. And so when you're able to identify those thoughts, then you're on your way, you're on your journey. Because if I don't believe my thought of being critical or being judgmental is unhealthy, then I won't have any thoughts of wanting to change it. But when we start to get to a point where we get very, very quiet inside, very still, and something starts to emerge in my consciousness where I feel like my conscience is signaling to me a particular thought that says, you know what, you shouldn't have said that to this person, you shouldn't have thought like this to this person. That when you start to identify where you could have made something right, that was gone wrong, then you're realizing that you're on your journey to healing. And that's what I feel this wonderful chance is offering us. Learning right now how to be comfortable with our own selves. And there are parts of us inside that's not comfortable, it's scary. Worse if you keep watching the news more than 4 hours or 5 hours a day, which is way too much news for a day. I think your quota for the whole day, maybe maximum 1 hour, which would be like 15 minutes in the morning, maybe 15 minutes later on, maybe half an hour, later on in the evening. It depends on your scheduling. Because if you've ever watched the news for a whole hour, it just keeps repeating. And if you're sitting in a couch or a chair and there's an energy of thought process that is being sent your way and you're feeling those thoughts, where is it getting recorded? It's not being recorded and left in the television. The thoughts and the vibrations that are coming through that little lens that you're looking at me with is now sending a thought vibration to me, the watcher, the eyes, the ears, what you hear. If you happen to have company, you talk about it to the other person about what they saw in that movie or in the news. And what it starts to create in the soul is an experience. We start to experience more fear, more trauma, more despair, and sometimes you'll hear a glimmer of hope. Oh, so-and-so donated this amount of masks, or so-and-so did this, or such and such a person stood up and made a strong account to, address the virus and so on. And you're like, oh, that's great. And then you go right back to the same news, the same information being repeated over and over and over and over again. How do you think your personality will fare with that kind of a vibration and information for an hour a day? Maybe 2 hours? So times that for 4 days, for 5 days, for 2 weeks. Let's go for a month of listening to the same information over and over again, where you're not using your discernment to decide what you wish to listen to, what you want to believe, and what you need to do. But you're just being fed. So you're like a sponge. You're like a sponge. So you're like a sponge and you're just taking it in little by little, little by little. And without you knowing it, you're consumed with fear. Without you knowing it, you have now influenced your personality with the fear of the world. And it's like a tsunami, you know. It blows through with such a force that you don't even know if you're going to survive it. And that uncertainty of the unknown can feed the energy of fear too. We have so many friends. I mean, I've told you all of the centers are closed all around the world. The Brahma Kumaris is in 120 countries. 9,000 centers are closed. Now, think about all the churches, all the synagogues, all the mosques, all the temples. They're all closed. So where do you go for prayer? Where do you go for your spiritual nourishment? What do? You do go inwards, but you still do stay connected because of these wonderful gadgets and these mechanisms, Wi-Fi, Zoom, this, that. It's helping us to stay connected. But still we have to keep remembering the ultimate connection is between the soul and God. You really want to know healing of the soul feels like? Develop a relationship with the Supreme. If I'm a soul, I come from God and I'm made in His image, then He must be a soul, but a supreme one. So whenever you stay in good company, it influences you. When you stay in company that isn't very positive, it drowns you. So in your consciousness, when you're thinking of God in the context of a pure energy, filled with love, unlimited, vast, eternal, immortal, the ocean of peace and love, and you think of that energy, and you start to see the energy of light in your mind, and you start to accept that's my parent, that's my teacher, that's my best friend, that's my beloved, then the experience that the soul receives in return is the energy of how much potential is in that interpretation of God. And it just starts to feed you little by little, more and more. If you do it for an hour a day, if you do that for 2, 3, 4 days, for an hour, 2, 3, if you do it for 5 weeks, if you do it for 6 months, and you maintain that connection and that love link with the Supreme, you better believe you're going to feel that you are being healed. And there's a profound power overcoming you, that you are becoming an instrument for positivity and change. Now, one of the things I'd like to offer you is a sound Om that I've been playing in many of our segments. And the reason why I've been playing this in most of our evening segments is that all of our centers around the world, especially on the East Coast at this particular time, have paused for absolute silence and meditation from 6 o'clock until 8 p.m. at night. And the specific purpose for doing that is to help with generating more calm and more peace. Of course, because I'm dedicated to being with you from 6:30 to 7:30, I'm still maintaining my calm as I relate and talk to you. So it's not like I'm in, a solitary confinement where I can't speak. Silence comes in different forms as well. If my mind is positive and I'm not having any waste thoughts, I'm not rushed, I'm not scared, I'm not having an expectation. Right when I was talking with you, Sister Gita was walking up to the camera right now. It's like, okay, she can walk into the camera. In other words, the most important thing is to keep your mind in a pure and peaceful space, despite whatever's going to happen around you. This is what this karuna, which means compassion. I don't want to use the word corona anymore. I just want to use karuna. That what we're being urged to practice is more inner compassion that will automatically become an external compassion. So I want to play us the mantra of Om just for 3 minutes as we continue to enhance the clearing out of the vibrations. Wherever you are, check the energy right now. And after the chanting of Om has been completed, see how the vibrations of the space will shift. And after that, we're going to get our beautiful friend, Reverend Sylvia of Unity of Washington, D.C., which is a wonderful church in the nation's capital. Their doors have been closed, and it's Palm Sunday. And I wanted to talk to her about how she is navigating through these difficult times. So stay tuned. Welcome back. Can't you feel your environment feels completely clean right now? Do you feel the difference just from that simple chanting of the mantra of Om? I guarantee if you play that mantra in your home every day for just a few minutes or just all day on low, 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 low volume, you'll feel like all negative energies are getting cleared out of your space. And we're going to need to clear out a lot of negative space, especially after post-Karuna takes place. So, as I mentioned before, we went on this little pause for meditation and clearing out our space and transforming our thoughts into something more holy. I'm happy to welcome my very dear friend, the wonderful Reverend Sylvia Sumter of Unity of Washington, D.C. And I'd like to tell her a warm welcome and invite her onto the air, and hopefully she can hear me very well.
I can, and thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here, connected with with you and all of your wonderful, wonderful audience. So thank you.
Reverend Sylvia, what has it been like having your church closed? How long has it been now? 3 weeks?
Yeah, I guess maybe even four, but it feels like a lot. But it's at first it was the thought of it was challenging, but I knew it was the right thing to do. And of course, it's caused a little bit of any type of change or shift. There's an adjustment period. And so, it's causing us to try to be creative in how we're going to bring forth the message to people, stay connected to people, to assure my employees and people who serve that we're still are here to be a viable place, a force in the community. So it's challenging, but it's ending up also being quite. I don't know if I want to say delightful, but it's surprising to me because I am enjoying knowing that we're reaching out to a larger audience
Yeah, I've been
because the
hearing
life.
that. I've been hearing that a lot of organizations, congregations, now that they're doing their services online, their numbers have also increased.
Yeah, yeah. So that's surprising, and people are able to tune in from everywhere, across the waters, across the pond, as they say. So it's exciting in that regard.
Now, have you had any moments of fear wondering how are you going to maintain the building? I mean, every building requires expenses, your staff, the congregation, all the people that you have to take care of. You know, money is a very big part of running churches. Did you ever have a moment of fear or uncertainty as to what are we going to do? And if so, how did you turn it around?
Well, of course, I had fear about that because when you're responsible for a staff of people, I immediately, thought about them, and I even tapped into their level of uncertainty. What will happen? Will they have a job? And so my thought process, of course, lend itself to just really wanting to be there for them. But at the same time, we still have a mortgage and all of those things. And even though we are tackling it with doing all of the outer things,
Right.
participating in the CARES program, we called our bank to see if they would delay the mortgage for 3 months, which they did. All of that is being taken care of, and which is really very helpful. But more importantly, it's about helping all of us stay grounded and connected and still on point, with our purpose. And because if you're worried about money, it's hard to keep your purpose in front of you. And so I just trust the process. I'm doing all the things in the outer, taking care of applying for whatever we can. And then we have to just leave that part to the divine. Our part is to remain faithful and to have a positive outlook that somehow, it will all unfold and work out for the highest good of all concerned. So,
So,
and I take it day by day.
so I know that this is a very auspicious weekend for you. You've got Good Friday coming up on Friday, and
Yes,
you've got Easter Sunday coming up.
yes,
These are big days for the Christian, Catholic, anyone that has a very deep relationship with Christ. How are
yes.
you managing with that?
Yes. Well, it's it felt challenging, but when you think about the whole process of Palm Sunday, Good Friday, it's all about meeting a great challenge. Christ met the greatest challenge of his life with crucifixion, but he met it with faith that it would be okay. And so we had Easter morning. And so I'm using this as a metaphor. Whatever we're going through feels like perhaps a crucifixion, or it feels like it's a great challenge. But I have every faith that somehow we're going to rise above all of this better people, the church. Look, already we have something going that we didn't have before, which is live streaming. So I think that it's very symbolic of what's happening on the planet.
Sure.
And it's resurrection into a new heaven and a new earth. So we'll do the best we can. We got, we'll have music and we'll have a service, and it will go on.
Yeah, I was watching your service last Sunday and I really appreciated just being able to sit there and watch God shine through you. The other thought that I was having is I also am feeling that out of this it will be the ushering of a golden age, but before the golden age gets fully established, we will see some more darker times, which have to be a part of the cleaning up process before the
Mm-hmm.
gold comes into play, before that golden age comes into play. And that's
Yes.
where I'd like to direct our conversation. What what advice would you offer some of our viewers right now in which
Mm-hmm.
they can prepare their soul and the vibration of their soul to be able to cope with the the tougher days ahead, but as
Mm-hmm.
well to remember that after these days will be the golden age of existence because they have become golden aged.
Yes. Yes. And that's a fabulous question and a thought. And one of the things that helped me personally was whenever a fear of would hit a wave of fear would hit me, I had to stop and ask myself two things. One, what is taking place in my life right now? What am I afraid of? Because right now, in the moment, I am secure. I am safe. I do have what I need. I'm in no present danger. And so I would talk myself through the reality of what is happening in the moment. And whenever we get into fear, or at least I'll speak for myself, it's because we're projecting ourselves, the fear, into the future. It's all about what we think will happen. And if I could remind myself to stay present, because God is in the present moment, if I could stay present and not project myself into the future, I can handle my fears a little better. And yes, I agree with you that this is just, I think, the beginning. I think things are going to get um, a little bit more challenging for us. But that's okay, because the greater the challenge, the greater the reward will be on the other end when we come out. And I think, I know that you and, your the BKs have been preparing for this, and I've been trying to prepare, my congregation to be light bearers. So this is the moment that we've all been preparing ourselves for, and it just means we have to get deeper, go deeper, get more grounded. Make sure that we spend time with connecting to the source of all being, so that we don't allow ourselves to get swept up in the energy of what's happening in the outer, but shore up that inner base.
Sure, and wonderfully said. I'm a firm believer that history repeats itself, and
Uh-huh.
in my teaching, what goes around comes around, nothing new under the
Yes.
sun,
Yeah.
and that I think, we're really all actors and we're in this unlimited drama, and
Mm-hmm.
the script is just playing out all over again. And some of the areas that I turn to confirm that belief is I ask, why do people go to numerologists, psychics, astrologers? Why do they read a horoscope? Why do they go to mediums for people to tell them the future, to tell them what's going to happen? So
Mm-hmm.
it's always the soul's intent to have a better future than what it's living through, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
But there's
Yes.
certain things that are destined. And I've asked you in the past, could you share with us what does the scripture say about these times that we're in? How has the scripture sort of validated that we would enter such a time? And as a result of entering such a time, what is it that we needed to do, or what is it that will happen?
Mm. So I will answer that in two ways. One, from the traditional point of view, because as you know, I'm sort of a metaphysician, and unity is a new thought movement. So we tend to think of the scriptures in terms of not as always a prophetic, exact, literal expression, but how does that apply to our lives today? But in the literal fashion, it does talk about it. I think most scriptures, holy books or whatever, talk about this time period. The Incas had it, that there would be great transformation and change. And the Bible says, that this everything that's happening, we can kind of see it being played out in the scripture, that there would be great tribulations and trials and famines and wars and rumors of wars and calamity. And we see all that happening to the earth, and it's coming to bear. But we also take it as a new thought expression that this is also happening within our own souls and psyche. It's in the collective. And this is what is taking place in terms of a transformation. And what the Bible says to move through that is that, says you need to be ready, because there's a scripture that says, not the time nor the hour when, like, sort of this exact transformation is going to take place, when all these things will come about. There'll be signs that we could read it, and what we're seeing is there are signs that are leading to the fact that this a great transformation is going to happen on this earth. But what it says is, be ready, be prepared, and because you don't know the exact hour. And Jesus gives like this metaphor, parable. He says, you don't know the hour that the master of the house is going to come home, that he's entrusted you with the house. So you need to be ready, which means, don't be asleep, stay awake, be present, because you don't know when the master's going to come. We don't know the exact hour. So our task is to be ever ready, be grounded, prayed up, living our highest and best expressions, always. And this is what it's been called for.
One of the things that you and I have spoken about, and one of the things that we're hearing a lot of people being concerned about, is the whole concept of mortality.
Yeah.
There is a hovering of this fear of dying.
Yes.
And this fear of death. And every day in the news, you hear a few more hundred Americans have died from this virus that's spreading all over the land.
Yes.
And so, what are your thoughts about death? Because one of the things that I've learned about death right now, it's like the same as living. It more depends on the way that you live will determine the way that you die. But in terms of this fear that we have, I'm not saying that if I can't breathe, that I would be like, oh, I can't breathe. Oh, I'm just going to walk to the park. I don't know if a part of me would be like, I can't breathe, and I'd be like, I want to hang on longer. And that attachment is what, to me, will make me feel like I'm afraid of letting go.
Yes.
So you and I know that the spirit is eternal, but yet the fear of our mortality still hovers over every one of our heads. Could you speak to that? What should we do?
Yes. Well, I'm going to do a confession right now, because I must admit, when this first hit, I had fear around that myself. And I could feel the energy and the spirit of death. And we talked about this.
Yes.
But then I made peace with it, because none of us knows when our death will be. So for me, once I got clear that I am to live every day in the moment to my fullest and my best, death will take care of itself. So for me, again, to be fearful of it is to waste my valuable time right now in living. So, and because I do know and believe that life, the spirit is eternal, and that, we're not going to cease to be. The soul is eternal. So that gives me peace. And of course, from a human perspective, no one wants to leave their family and, their life and friends. But if you really are connected to the source, and you have lived your best, you've done your best, then I can't have any regrets. I have to be willing to accept whatever comes. But in the meantime, I don't want the thought of death to stop me from living right. The fear, not even the thought, the fear of it, because I was afraid for a moment.
Yes,
Deeply afraid.
yes. Well,
And
remember when we were talking, it was that same day that we got news that Daddy Janky had passed away. And remember, that was the same night on Thursday. I said, let's get on air that night, and let's talk about death and mortality because
Yes.
it's become a big issue in people's lives.
Yeah.
I have to share with you once when I was in New York, I was walking across the street from the house that I was staying to Global Harmony House that I was caretaking, and I this image of a skeleton came over me with a black sort of a coat, and my knees buckled.
Mm.
And as I was walking across the street, I felt, oh my gosh, I'm going to die.
Mm.
And as I felt that energy, for the next few days, I just said, I'm not ready for this. I still have way too much to live for and way too much to appreciate. And so, what
Yes.
I did, I buckled down in my morning meditation, I buckled down with my thoughts, I kept really keeping my mind elevated and happy. And after the
Yes.
third day, it passed. And you've met
Mm-hmm.
Sister Mohini, someone that has played a very big role in many of our lives. But one day she was giving a class, and in just her innocent way of expressing all of these profound experiences that she's had, she said, how many times has death come knocking on her door? And
Mm.
she just looks at it and say, I'm not ready, so go away.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was so profound because I could remember that time when I had that experience. So, what would you say to individuals who are feeling that fear of death and dying? What would be your best advice?
Well, I love that story you just told because it reminded me that, you know, we can say, we can participate in our lives and at least say, you know what, I love it. I'm not ready. And of course, there's always, you know, you would call it drama takes place and we might not, it might be beyond us. But I think our inner readiness does play a part. Like once I made peace with this idea that, okay, that's fine, but I'm going to live. And it's the fact that I made the choice that I'm going to live to the highest and best until death does come knocking on my door. That energy that I'm putting forth, that vibration of I'm going to live my best, serves me better than, you know,
Live like you're
well,
dying all the time.
exactly.
Yeah.
So the vibration, at least it lifts me up and it's like, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to get up. I'm going to walk today. I'm going to do it. I'm going to live. So I believe that that energy that I'm putting out there helps to lift my vibration. And if it's my, this is the thing about death. When it comes, it comes. And there's nothing, there's no choice about it. So I just want to not hold on to it because someone said that death was like falling asleep on the couch and then waking up the next morning and you're in your own bed. You know,
Oh,
it's just, you know, it's like, yeah, the divine takes care.
that's
There's
how
no
I would
need to
like to
respond.
go. I would like to
Yeah,
go that peacefully, like just
peacefully. And
easy.
when you wake up, you know, when you're in the when you're in heaven and whatever, it's like, oh yes, this is it's fine.
And
Um,
I think we should design our playlist that they should play at our tribute. And we should put down the menu, the food that we want cooked that day. And we should make these preparations so that our transitioning, it's like
it's easy.
changing a pair of socks or
That's right.
changing a pair of
That's right.
shoes or an outfit, that
Exactly.
it's a celebration and go, oh my gosh, I love that
Yeah.
new outfit that you just bought. So when we come
Exactly.
back
And
in our new form, it'll be a celebration, right?
you've got a new body. It looks wonderful. It's glowing. It's filled with light. Yeah. But actually, you know what I did do? I did not have a trust or my will prepared, and it caused me to do that because I thought, let me be conscious about this. Let me not be fearful because, see, most people are fearful of talking about death or preparing for death. And I thought, let me be wise. And I called up a lawyer and I had him put a trust into action, and, you know, hopefully that'll come through in a couple of days. But I thought, let's be prepared. And so
Yeah.
your suggestion of doing that is a great one because it
Yes.
takes all the fear out of it too.
Yes, I've had a life insurance policy since I was 19 because growing up, with a single parent, I never wanted my mother to be left out on her own and not have anything to take care of because you never know what's going to happen to you or when, right?
Right.
So to this day, I still have that life insurance.
Great.
You
And
know,
you don't have it because you think you're going to die tomorrow. It's just being prepared.
but it's just my mind feels at ease that I won't leave a burden for the Brahma Kumaris. I won't leave a burden for
Yes.
my mother. I won't leave a burden for my friends and everybody who loves me. You know,
Yes.
financially they'll be okay. Emotionally they'll be okay. Everything will
Yes.
be okay. And to me, I feel like that's maybe another element of, you know, that you heal your thoughts because you're taking care of business ahead of time.
Yes.
And when you know that you've done everything that you're supposed to do and what you're responsible for, spirit helps you. Your whole being is going to be served. Things will come to
Yes.
support you because you've taken care of business. It's a part of thought healing, especially through difficult times. You called the mortgage company, the bank, and you told them, look, the church is closed. The bank, what did they do? They go, okay, we'll give you 3-month waiver. So
Yes.
your mind is at ease. So this is all we have
Yes.
to do. We have to call, stop being afraid, step into our power, and do what the best we can do at this time, right?
Exactly. And once you've done the best, then, there's nothing else to do. You can be at peace.
Yeah, yeah. So any last minute thoughts or feelings that you'd like to share with some of us? And Santosh, anyone there has any questions for Reverend Sylvia or myself where fear is concerned or anything?
A lot of comments.
Okay. Go
Um,
ahead, Reverend Sylvia. Any
Okay.
thoughts?
All right. Well, for me, it is to be present. Be present to your family, be present to your situation, be present to whatever is before you. And do that. And the divine will unfold and guide you for the next step. But don't get too far ahead other than being really, really rooted in the peace of God, because that's what's going to take us through all of this.
That's our
And
protection. Yeah.
yeah, that's our protection. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Beautiful. We've got a question for you. Hold on.
Yes.
well, I'll summarize it. Julio says, after 9/11, everyone was loving and everything. This is all distancing. And how will we see this happening? What will happen after this is over?
Did you hear the
Fear or
question?
love?
Not
Do
really.
we?
So
Just
after 9/11, everyone was loving, but with Corona, everyone is distancing. And what do you think will happen after this, fear or love?
oh, definitely love. And because even though we're distancing, I am seeing more connection than ever before. I see people being more are willing to express, to meditate, to pray, to share. They're finding ways that they can contribute. One of the nursing students decided that they were students, and the doctors and the nurses were so exhausted. And so she started a nationwide movement of medical students who are not allowed to practice yet, but they could help their fellow future colleagues. And they've done so by volunteering to babysit, to make sure that they have food. So they're taking care of these first responders. That kind of stuff it's grassroots, grassroots connecting and expressing love. I think this is so huge for the collective consciousness that we'll never go back to the sense of how we were. We recognize that we need each other.
Yeah. So I
And
guess it's the golden age that's calling us, huh?
yeah, oh, definitely, yes.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Kiri, it's not a question. You're just sharing that not fear, but the feeling that you're not alone. We are all in together, and as being united, we can move the mountain. And if one is physically, medically okay, then don't worry to death. That's what he's saying.
He's saying like it's not really about fear as such, but it's the fact that we're all in this together. So there's a sense that we are united. And if we feel a sense of united, we shouldn't have to have this fear about death. You know, we should just, we could move mountains if we're together in this. And we must remember that during this particular period that we're going through.
Excellent. Yes, yes.
Um,
Because we are together in this.
Yeah, we don't have a choice.
Like it or not.
This is not selecting Democrats, Republicans, blacks or
Exactly.
whites, rich or poor. I have to tell you, I was looking at Oprah doing a cooking segment yesterday on Twitter, and I was going, gosh, even Oprah Winfrey has to be locked down. You
Mm-hmm.
know, now Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister of
Yeah.
Britain, has to go into ICU. Then
Yeah.
you've got, a kid that might be from the hood or an immigrant locked.
Yes.
It's not racist, that's for sure.
That's for sure. No,
It's
it's
like Corona loves everybody.
every it's hitting the human race.
Um,
Well, it's part of Mother Earth. Is she's just saying, I've got to stop everything so that I can heal, and
yes.
that we need to heal. The Earth is healing, and this I think will bring about healing on a deeper level for us as well as
The
people.
animals are coming back, the waters
Yeah.
are getting pure, the ozone layer is
Yes.
healing. What
Yeah.
kind of a trouble were we humans causing Mother Nature? We have
Oh
one more
my.
question for you, Reverend Sylvia. Hold on.
This is from Kanu.
Okay.
Um, a question for both of you. What is the role of joy in the face of sorrow?
So, wonderful sister Kanu is asking both of us, what is the
Role of
role
joy
of joy
in the
in the
face of sorrow.
face of sorrow? What a great question.
Oh, powerful question. Well, what just came to mind for me is that internal sense of joy is what takes us through our sorrow. There's a scripture that says, sorrow may come, last for the night, but joy comes in the morning. And I love that. During the night we may have sorrow, but joy comes in the morning, meaning we have hope for a better day, a brighter day, and a newness of a new situation. So, joy. If we give up joy, then we've lost forever. So, yeah, joy is powerful.
So, I feel like for me, Kanu, joy is connected to how I've lived, and that my joy, if it's based on virtues and
Mm-hmm.
purity and benevolence, I will
Mm-hmm.
see the situation of sorrow as an opportunity to serve, to be of service to it. So I'm not confusing joy with happiness, but
Mm-hmm.
joy
Right.
joy is connected to like a sense of my own inner contentment and
Mm-hmm.
preparedness that I can be of support in the midst of sorrow.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're
So
right, Sister Jenna. Joy is service.
yeah.
That
So that's how I
when
was
we
looking
serve,
at it in
yeah,
that form.
and it's not happy. It's a deeper. Joy is a deeper,
It's a deeper
abiding.
quality, yes, of the
Yes,
soul.
yes,
Yeah.
definitely filled with spirit. It has nothing to do with the outer happiness about things. It's an inner state of being.
Indeed, indeed.
Yeah.
Well, look, as usual, we always enjoy. We could talk for hours, right?
Yes.
Can I tell you, thank you so much for taking the time to joining us for our daily segment. I'm calling this our spiritual vaccine so that we can keep ourselves healthy and healed and come out of this just stronger and just really clear hearted and ready for the world.
Well, I've been listening every day, and it's been feeding me, and I've enjoyed it tremendously. So I thank you for your commitment to doing this, to helping keeping all of us, up elevated and uplifted. So thank you.
Thank you for your blessings. Many, many
Okay.
good wishes. Take care.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Conversation between both of us, we always end up having very rich dialogues together. So, again, our process to heal our thoughts is really in our own hands based on the way that we will choose to interpret a particular thought, project our thoughts. Try not to project our thoughts way too much into the future, but being very present about where I am and what I'm going through, to me, is one of the biggest forms of healing for me. I might not be perfect at the moment, but I will get perfect. So you have to be thinking about your better perfected self. And my recommendation for tonight before we close off, when we close down in our meditation, try to sit in your silence and visualize what is that vision that you hold of yourself for your future. And it's not a vision that's connected to how many millions. I mean, I've had those. It's not about a person, but it's about a quality. It's about a temperament. It's about the state of the soul, the stage of the soul. Can you envision maybe out of this particular period of coronavirus? Remember, I changed it from corona to karuna because I feel this is a state of compassion. The word karuna means compassion. So I go, instead of spreading that energy, let me give it life and say, no, no, no. It's an opportunity to be infected with more compassion as a person. So let's take this time as we go into meditation to go into our own state of being. And from silence, really ask, what is the vision that I have for myself? What's the energy of the person that I wish to emerge or to blossom from, to be birthed after this particular period of this incredible time on the planet passes? This will take you some time, but it will be very meaningful. So what's the vision? Because if you can see it in your mind and you can feel it, then you will make the effort to become it. You can't become what you can't see. And if all you see is a man or a woman with a new car, a new house, paying bills, paying the mortgage, not getting sick or getting healed, or having a particular partner in your hand, if that's all you're seeing, that's not enough. And that's still pre-Karuna. We really want to be a completely best version of ourselves after this. So enjoy your meditation and feel free to come back tomorrow and share with me your vision. By the way, tomorrow we have Dr. Bradley Nelson, who you're going to love, who's the author of Emotion, the Emotion Code. And he's got an incredible process to help to remove certain traumas and certain blockages in our personality. So join us sharp tomorrow early at 6. Is it going to be at 6 o'clock tomorrow or 6:30? 6:30? Join us at 6:30 tomorrow, and we'll go on for a while to really give you some tools in how to remove those blocks that might be disconnecting you from yourself, from God, and from each other. Thanks again for joining us. Lots of love, and thanks for the wonderful comments and sharing as well. Take care. Keep safe.